Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and right now I am currently pre-recording, but that has obviously led me to do some serious procrastination because I have not learned all throughout my 27 years that I shouldn't just put things off, although I do work under pressure. If I have a schedule and I know I've got to get it done by a certain date, that's it. Like, head on. It might take me up until like the last few seconds, but I'll get it done. But that means I've just constantly been doom scrolling on Twitter and also been checking out everyone's thoughts and opinions about this new perk. And something that caught my attention was the fact that everyone seems to want fairies, and I say fairies. Do you know, the little things with the wings? So many people think I say furry and theory and fairy. I know I have a Mancunian accent and therefore they all just kind of blur the lines a little bit and they all just sound a little bit similar because of my pronunciation, but I'm saying like tiny little Tinkerbell thing. Everybody seems to want them, but that led me on to my unpopular opinions. And the first unpopular opinion that I have is I personally really like the way occults are done. See that connection between the fairies and the occults? I really enjoy the fact that we get game packs designated to supernaturals. That's not to say that I don't have my issues with a lot of the stuff that comes with it. Vampires is the perfect pack, don't at me. But I did definitely want spellcasters to be different than what they were. There definitely wasn't enough consequence in that pack for me personally. However, I much prefer both vampires and spellcasters, which are the two occults that we've got in a dedicated pack, over the two occults, aka aliens and mermaids. And I guess plant sims, but plant sims came in a weird update challenge. I'm very annoyed that we've not got actual plant sims in the game. I would really like to see that. But the ones that we got a game pack for are way better than the ones that we have expansion. So I'm not disappointed that fairies aren't coming in this expansion, because I do think they'd be a little bit half-assed and half-baked, and I definitely don't think the community would be happy with them because I could just see them resembling mermaids. So I don't mind the fact that we get different game packs for occults. I prefer it. One big one that has recently changed for me, and if you go back and watch my old opinion videos, I do seem hypocritical, but I think it's just got to that point where it's been 7 years since the release of The Sims 4, and I just couldn't really give a shit about this anymore, and it's the fact that babies are objects. I personally, and I feel like I am gonna get crucified for having this opinion, I really don't mind if they don't update babies anymore. I'm over it. I was sort of over toddlers as well, although I love toddlers in The Sims 4 and I am very glad that we got them a few years down the line. Babies, I'm just ugh. I just feel like they would take attention away from the packs that we still feel like we need, because they'd have to do it as a base game update. They definitely couldn't sell babies as anything else, because then they would be objects and monetary gain for EA. So I'm just kind of over it. You know what? I age babies up pretty much straight away anyway. I don't see that changing if I'm able to take them out. Also, toddlers in The Sims 4, there's nothing for toddlers to do on community lots, so what's there gonna be for babies? They're definitely gonna forget to put baby changing stations and stuff in the game, so I'm just not really that fussed by them anymore. It's just too little too late. Another age-related unpopular opinion, and I've said this in my past videos, but I do not want preteens. I don't think there's ever going to be an update that makes teenagers look more like teenagers or resemble teenagers more. I don't think they'll ever be made shorter because of the clothing and the skeleton and all of that, unless we get a teen dedicated pack where they just decide to do that in a base game update. But I know so many people don't feel like teenagers are real teenagers. They feel a little bit older to them. They're not preteen age. And personally, I've just always played my teenagers as having a preteen stage, and then in a sim week or two, I'll start to have them age up a little bit, in themselves, grow out. Like, I put acne on them. I do these things to make them feel more like teenagers to me, like the hobbies that they pick up. So technically I'm not really losing out on that. And also, in like a more skeptical sense, I think introducing preteens, we already have issues with every life stage in The Sims 4 minus young adults and adults. Adding preteens would literally just stir that pot even more. Content would be spread even more thin. Like, we barely get stuff for masculine Sims in Create a Sim. So imagine if that was also like divided by the age ranges that we currently have, and then like preteens would barely get anything if they did ever come to the game. Speaking of Create a Sim, this was actually an idea that I saw floating around the internet the other day, and I thought it was a really cool idea. And I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or if it's just not voiced that often, but I would really love sliders for traits. So you could kind of like change the intensity of like how your sim acts. I guess what we would need for that, we did just get a trait update, which sort of helped with some of the autonomous traits that we have in the game and like how Sims actually go about them. But I would really like to see it maybe in The Sims 5. Like, in the older games you had personality points, so you could sort of choose whether a Sim was like on the neater end of the scale or if they were on the lazy end of the scale. I'd like that same sort of scale, but obviously we only had like 5 categories in 2 and 1 for those points, whereas if you chose a trait and then got to choose like the intensity of a slider, or if you had them on a set scale, I still think like it would be cool to have a set scale like lazy v athletic and like choose where your sim sits on that. I'm surprised that's actually not a thing, because I feel like if The Sims 4 loves anything and does anything very, very well in Create a Sim, it's definitely sliders. Someone please talk me out of buying croc sliders. Like, I do not need that in my life. I bought crocs once when I was younger and they had like bumpy like soles, like where your foot sits, and it just was very uncomfortable. Do crocs still have those like bumpy bits where your foot sits? Because if so, that will put me off the idea of buying them, and I feel like I need to put myself off the idea of buying them. Lockdown is becoming too much for me when I'm definitely thinking about buying crocs. I feel like this one is gonna be a big unpopular opinion, but this is also an idea that I've seen floating around the Sims community for so long now, and a lot of people want seasons in base game. I, however, am strongly against that. Not fully. I guess what you could say is I wouldn't mind having like rain or sunshine or like a cloudy day in base game. Like, I wouldn't mind if the weather changed throughout base game, because having that like 4 years of eternal sunshine that we had when Sims 4 came out was pretty tough. Like, it got pretty boring, and I know how like grateful everyone was when we finally got rain. Waiting for you is like waiting for rain in this drought. I love a bit of Cinderella story. Hilary Duff was truly, when I was younger, she was what Taylor Swift is to me now. I know you won't believe that because I'm such a Swiftie, but Hilary Duff was like my one and only celebrity. However, seasons to me personally is just like so much bigger than the actual seasons. Like, I loved the festivals in The Sims 3. I love the flower arranging that comes in The Sims 4. Don't get me wrong, I way prefer The Sims 3 seasons to The Sims 4, purely based off like what you can do. I don't feel like there's enough activities in The Sims 4. However, I would still think I would want that like seasons expansion that gives you all of the activities and like also introduces snow. So I wouldn't mind dynamic weather in base game. I just still think I want that expansion pack, which also sounds like a very privileged thing to say, because I know not everyone can afford every pack, and like having that accessible in base game would like mean a lot to those people who can't afford seasons as an expansion. But to me personally, I feel like we'd miss out on a bunch of the content that makes seasons. One thing I also don't mind right now is the fact that animals aren't playable. I actually do not miss being able to control my animals. If we get a pet in The Sims 5, I don't actually mind not being able to like play as the cats or the dogs or the horses or anything like that, because honestly, even in The Sims 3, I didn't really control the animals. Like, the only time I miss that is like when you can say to your dog like, go here and pee, but like you can train your dog to go and pee outside anyway, as long as you don't live in an apartment. I ran into a weird bug the other day where like the dog couldn't get down the stairs from the apartment. It was so annoying. But I really don't miss that, and personally, I wouldn't be upset if it like never came back in a future Sims game. Another thing that I don't actually miss, and I know I've talked about this before, but it is absolutely the color wheel. Before you all go off on me, I miss the color wheel for certain things. I really miss having a color wheel for skin tones. I miss having a color wheel for hair and eye color. I feel like those three are so important to have like a color wheel, or at least sliders for. I think it's such a missing thing in The Sims 4. Sims 4 Create a Sim does everything so well, usually. Like, Create a Sim feels so polished. I love the way it worked ever since base game. Yes, some of like the fashion isn't my favorite, and like if you go look at base game to like how stuff looks now, the assets have like stepped up so much. But like, that's just the one thing that's really, really lacking for me in Create a Sim. However, when it comes to create a style on clothing and also furniture, I honestly prefer furniture the way it works in The Sims 2, and I wish The Sims 4 had that, just so that you could like actually match swatches a lot easier. Again, I will say in the most recent packs, like the cohesiveness has definitely been there in build and buy mode. A lot of the swatches match with each other. They tend to use the same palette across all the build and buy mode items, which I really, really like. It really popped out to me in Dream Home Decorator. I would still love to be able to match like a wood swatch, like with bed frames where you used to be able to change the wood tone and then you also could change the covers. I absolutely miss having that. I kind of wish it was a thing that we got when we got bunk beds. Unfortunately, it wasn't. You could just like slot out a bunk bed and put another one in, but then the woods don't match and it kind of just feels a little bit weird. So if we do go to the Sims 5, I mean, to be fair, technology has changed. So like stuff that was in The Sims 3 but like held The Sims 3 back a little bit when it came to performance and like the lagginess of that game, which Creator Style definitely was very laggy in the game, especially if you had lots of items on your lot. I do think that if we get that again in The Sims 5 or in a future Sims game, I do feel like it could potentially work, but I'm not a game developer, so I don't know, but I genuinely don't miss it in The Sims 4. And finally, talking about The Sims 5, I really don't want The Sims 5 to have super, like, realistic graphics. Sims 3 graphics still aren't my favorite. Like, custom content really made that game for me. To be fair, custom content also makes The Sims 4 for me. If I didn't have my default skin, I definitely would not find my Sims as cute as I do. But I have seen a lot of people wanting GTA or Invu type graphics in The Sims 5. This is just a personal preference, to be honest, but I would definitely prefer The Sims 5 to keep sort of like the cartoony look. In my like personal opinion, I think having graphics such as like the Life is Strange games, especially True Colors, maybe not like the older ones, because again, those characters seem kind of like plasticine-y like they do in The Sims 4, but I think that would be like the furthest I would push the sort of realism when it comes to graphics, just because it kind of creeps me out. I don't really like it when it's too close to real life. I just think like a simulation game, in my head, I like start to overthink it if it's too realistic, and I'm like, oh no, these Sims look way too realistic, and I'm like here like ruining their life, and like what if they have thoughts? What if they have feelings? What if they're not just a simulation but they can feel these things? And that's definitely just like, maybe that's an issue I just need to work on by myself before The Sims 5 comes out, just in case they are hyper-realistic graphics. Personally, I can't see them going that way because of like how they have produced The Sims 4, and they've always like strived to have The Sims 4 work on as many like machines as possible. So I don't know how it's gonna go, but my personal opinion is that I don't want it super hyper realistic because I'll feel awful if I do like a Black Widow challenge. It's gonna play on my mind and keep me up at night. But those are my unpopular opinions that I could come up with. I tried to switch them up as well. Like, over the years, my opinions have definitely changed. For example, cars used to be on my unpopular opinions list and how I never wanted cars. Now I could quite see myself liking cars and a mechanic career in The Sims 4. So things definitely change and shift, and I think that's okay. I think as Sims players, we can evolve, we can learn to love things, we can fall out of love with things, and I don't think we should be judged for that. So let me know what your unpopular opinions are down below. Please definitely make me feel better about my own. And thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will speak to you all. I feel like I just farted with my hands, but I didn't. I showed off this trick on Twitch the other day. And then we were doing armpit ones, but I'm not very good at them, and I get deodorant all over my hand, especially today when it's a very hot day outside. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Bye now.